Allan Smofsky is a workplace health strategist based in Toronto. He spoke with us about measuring health and wellness programs. How can employers create an effective health and wellness program?
I think, Amanda, for me, it starts by creating a culture that values employee health and well-being to start with, and then the programs can fall into place. And so there are 4 quadrants, and the World Health Organization has just come out with 4 quadrants, being safe and healthy work environment, personal health and lifestyle practices, supportive psychosocial work environment, and corporate social responsibility. And so that, to me, are the ingredients to create a culture that will really make the programmatic elements of health and wellness programs effective. The culture piece is really what drives everything else. And so if you've got a culture that values its people, that values its employees, that values employee health and well-being, and puts in place policies and sort of walks the talk that drive that, so that there's a good balance between, for example, workload and employee control over their workload, that employees have got input, they're able to kind of put their best foot forward in an environment that encourages them to take risks, but not too much so. Similarly, that there's a good balance between the effort that they put in and the reward or recognition that they get back. It doesn't have to be optimal, it just has to be good and not out of balance, as you sometimes see, because otherwise you get people that are stressed out. If those things are in place, then the health and wellness programs, employees are more engaged, they'll be more engaged also in managing their own health. So the programmatic elements that the organization brings in will be more sustainable, because it's against the backdrop of a culture that values employees to start with.
How can employers measure the effectiveness of their health and wellness programs?
Well, again, it starts with setting objectives, and I think employers need to understand why they're doing something. Sometimes employers just kind of jump into something and they don't establish objectives, they don't put metrics around that, so they don't really know whether they've been successful. And I think that's a function of health and wellness programs in the past almost being treated as kind of fluff, and it's a one-off exercise. So I think if employers establish objectives, and actually it almost goes back to understanding what are the key health-related issues, health in a broad context, in the organization, understanding what the key cost drivers are around employee health and so forth. With that knowledge, you can establish objectives, and with that you can then establish the metrics around each of the objectives, and then link the objectives together and put in place the measurement to do that.
And what does the future hold for health and wellness programs?
Well, it's sort of a good news, bad news, and I think the good news is that we are already seeing, and I'm convinced we'll continue to see, much greater business emphasis placed on employee health and well-being. We're already seeing that with employee engagement, that even during the economic turmoil that we had last year, there still continued to be, at least in Canada, a lot of focus on employee engagement. Organizations continue to survey employees. And so I think we're at a point now in Canada where we understand as employers the importance of our people in a way that perhaps we never did before. What that means is that the bar is starting to be raised in terms of employee health and well-being. It's no longer the sort of on-the-side fluff kind of thing that we used to perceive it as it becomes much more ingrained as part of organizational culture. It's going to have a lot more scrutiny within the organization, and a lot more people will be asking, what is this doing for us?